chair over there.
Okay.
Wherever you want. It's 9 o'clock, we have 11 o'clock, we'll call this meeting Board of Equalization to order. Madam Clerk, if you would please issue the oath.
The oath, everyone want to stand, put up your right hand and read what we've got there and put your name in where it needs to be. I,
Beth Strange,
as a member of the Knox County Board of Equalization, do solemnly swear to fairly and impartially equalize the valuation of all real estate and tangible personal property taxable by the county.
For our first order of business, we'll hear the Knox County Community Center.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come back again this year, and I'll try not to make the same argument, although essentially it is similar to the same argument that was last year.
I'm going to ask you a quick question.
Yes.
If this,
Yes.
are you all here to present the case for exemption?
Yes.
Again, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's an appeal with the State Tax Commission.
There is an appeal currently pending with the State Tax Commission from last year's decision.
We've been advised not to even take this case up simply because it's under appeal with the State Tax Commission. It would be redundant for us to hear this case again.
I think that, one, I understand what your concern would be. However, according to the statute, it specifically says that real property can only be appealed in odd years, okay? Real property can also be appealed in even years as long as there's not an appeal pending at the State Tax Commission. However, personal property has to be appealed every single year. Therefore, we're here to present our
Do you
case
not
today.
have an appeal pending personal property with the State Tax
But
Commission as
those
well?
have to be appealed every single year.
Okay, that was not my understanding. Do you have any information on that?
What I have in it, and what the hearing officer from State Tax Commission sent me, it does say in parentheses regarding real property. And I never did find anything that told me if.
That's the distinguishment. It's the distinguishment between when the real property has to be appealed and the personal property.
So, I know with real property, if there was no new construction or values didn't change, there's no question. But personal property changes frequently from year to year to year to year. So I can kind of see where you're coming from with that.
You all aren't appealing the value of the personal
No,
property.
we're
correct?
appealing
Just
the exemption. That is
Which is
correct.
already under appeal with the State Tax Commission.
That is correct, of
This
which you
board
heard
has
last year.
made it twice now, actually made a ruling upholding the assessor's claim of non-exempt status, and it's pending, an appeal with a higher authority.
Right.
We cannot issue a verdict on this, we already have, and it's good for 2 years on that. Yes, personal property, but there's no reason to appeal to the Board of Equalization unless you're planning to issue another appeal to the state.
Of which we have every right to do.
You do, but you've already got an appeal pending with the state on real and personal.
And I'll
As of
respectfully
today,
disagree. Are you saying that you're not going to hear it all, even though that's not what the law says?
We can hear it, but there's no need. It just doesn't
I
make any
guess,
sense.
can I see a copy of your oath?
Yeah.
Okay, and so according to this oath, it says, as a member of the Knox County Board of Equalization, I do solemnly swear to fairly and impartially equalize the valuation of all real estate. And so I guess if I'm going to proceed with my argument today, I want to make sure that you can affirm that you will fairly and impartially hear what I'm having to say. Because from what I'm hearing you say is that you've already made up your mind.
I did not say that once whatsoever. I said there's an appeal pending with the State Tax Commission
Yes.
on real and personal property,
That is correct.
which is a higher authority than us. We
That is
rendered
correct.
a decision last year, this board did,
Which was last
on
year's
real,
decision.
that's on a 2-year cycle.
for the real, not the personal.
You're more than welcome to present your case, and we'll hear it, but as far as issuing a verdict on it, we've been instructed by the state
Instructed by
tax.
whom?
We've been advised by the state tax commission and our legal representation that it being under appeal with state tax commission, that that we can't really issue a verdict on this.
And who is your legal representative?
Ivan Schrader with Low and Long Law.
Okay, and is he here today?
No.
Well, I have to respectfully disagree, but I have some concerns that one, you're not going to render a decision, which is a violation of our rights.
We will
And
render
two-
a decision, one way or another, we will
And
render
that
a
it's pretty
decision.
clear to me that it's not going to be fair and impartial.
Well, I disagree with that. I can very well hear your argument. If you like, please state your case.
Thank you. May it please the board? I think as everyone knows, according to the statute that we've been talking about over the course of the last few years in trying to get the Knox County Community Center to be declared exempt, that the statute that applies is 137.100. Under subsection 5, do you guys have a copy of that statute? I think it was provided to you in your packets. Under subsection 5, what we're actually talking about is whether or not the Knox County Community Center can be declared exempt because it is actually and regularly used exclusively for educational purposes. And I think that that's where the hang-up comes in for different members or even the assessor as to whether or not we're actually and regularly used. Let me tell you that for educational purposes, the fact that it is not a school, college, or university, I think those would make it very clear that those are exempt because by nature of how they're titled. But the fact that this is not a school, a college, or a university in the traditional sense really to the state tax commission is no importance. What the courts, and actually the courts too, what the courts have done is in the Salvation Army case, they've laid out this three-pronged test. And I'm not asking you guys to read the law, interpret the law, but there's some common sense perspectives to this three-pronged test that I think it is pretty clear and obvious for the Knox County Commission, the Knox County Community Center. The first prong of the test, and I'd just like to lay those out. Are you guys familiar with the three prongs of the test? Everybody? Hearing one head shaking yes and not so much the others. Let me go through those just in case. Okay. So the three prongs of the test. The first one is the property must be owned and operated on a non-for-profit basis. Okay. The second prong of the test is the property must be actually and regularly used exclusively for charitable purpose. And number three, it must be used for an indefinite number of people, for society in general, directly or indirectly. So, as the Knox County Community Center, I have the burden of proof of meeting all three of those. And I have to say, one, I'm new to this community. I was not the attorney that assisted in forming this non-for-profit, but I will tell you that from the very, very beginning, these documents clearly lay out and give you something to hang your hat on, that this is a non-for-profit organization that should be considered exempt. If you look at the packet that I provided, a letter from the Internal Revenue Service, this shows that it is a 501c3 and that it is exempt under the Internal Revenue Code. Now, just because it's a 501c3, the courts have said that in and of itself doesn't qualify it automatically. So we have to continue looking at the rest of the prongs of the test. Let's also look at the next document, which is the limited exemption for Missouri sales tax and use. This also shows that it has a tax exempt status. And so these two documents in and of itself show the first prong of the test, that this business or this community center is operated for a non-for-profit basis. Okay? So after I meet the first prong of the test, then we have to look at the second prong of the test. The second prong of the test, which is probably where Anita comes in to say, I don't really know about this prong. This one's a little bit hairier. So we look at the second prong of the test that says The property must be actually and regularly used exclusively for a charitable purpose. And so we could go through and we could nitpick every single thing that goes on over that community center and say, okay, if we put them on a scale, do we have 50 that are used for this way and 10 that are used for this way, and which one weighs more? And then you would have to be doing that on a yearly or monthly basis to even make a determination. But I ask you and tell you to look at the documents. And what do the documents say as to when they organized this community center? How was it laid out? What is the intent of it? What is filed with the Secretary of State's office? So I'll ask you to turn to the next document. Under the bylaws of the Knox County Community Center. Can you see Article 2? And if you look at that, it says, towards the bottom of the paragraph, it says, of any future federal tax code, and specifically to promote quality of living and well-being for people of all ages. And why are they doing that? It specifically says, by education, through fitness, recreation, and wellness opportunities. By education is exactly what I am telling you, you guys need to hang your hat on as to what is the purpose of this facility. The second document I'd like you to take a look at is, if you look at the amended Articles of Incorporation. And if you look at, it's this little short document here, if that helps. And let me add, this document is on file with the Secretary of State's office. And so anybody can look up the Secretary of State's, the Articles of Incorporation, to see what is the intent, what is the purpose of this non-for-profit. Specifically, it says the corporation is formed for the following purpose: to construct, operate, and maintain a community center, which will act as a 501c3, hence we're hitting that first prong of the test, as defined by the Internal Revenue Service. And here we go, providing educational opportunities that will improve the health and well-being of the participants. So let me highlight. One, we put the first prong of the test under the 501c3. And two, once again, the documents that are filed with our own Secretary of State's office says, what is the purpose of this building? It is for educational opportunities. Third, the mission statement. I'm sure you guys are all far more familiar with this than I am, but the mission statement of the Knox County Community Center is, our mission is to educate every resident of Knox County and surrounding communities of the three prongs of healthy living: fitness, nutrition, and tobacco-free. Once again, we go back to our mission is to educate. And you know what? We may not have participants sitting at a table with school desks over there and having recess and gym every day, but education doesn't have to be, remember, in the typical sense of a school, college, or university. Last, I'd like to draw your attention to another public document, which would be the Knox County website. You look in your packet, looks like this. And I'm sure you guys have reviewed this more than I have. The Knox County Community Center is a tobacco-free facility and focuses on educating every resident of Knox County and the surrounding communities of the three prongs of healthy living: fitness, nutrition, and tobacco-free. Further, if you look up at the logo, at the top, where there's three little circles, those three circles actually represent health, education, and community. And the logo is Knox County Community Center, where health, education, and community meet. These are just a few of the documents, actually the main documents, that anybody who is researching Knox County Community Center through asking for a copy of their bylaws, through searching the Secretary of State's website, searching a website online, these documents in and of itself says what the purpose of it is, and it is primarily to educate. Last, so first of all, I think we've met the 501c3, which is the first prong. The second prong is to be used exclusively for the purposes of education. And the last prong would be, it must be used for an indefinite number of people, for society in general, directly or indirectly. I'd like to present to the board members an updated list since 2016 of the opportunities that the Knox County Community Center has provided to the community. And I am sure that this list is not exhaustive, but I'd ask you, how many of you have never been in that building over there for educational purposes? How many of you have been excluded for that building? That building is used for numerous things. And in fact, my understanding is recently it's now going to be used as the voting place for Knox County Community Center. What an amazing opportunity that Knox County has, the city of Edina, to have such a facility that can be used for many purposes, that is also open to an indefinite number of people for many different reasons. By looking through the 3 prongs of the test, we've met prong number 1, we've met prong number 2, and we've met prong number 3. And so I understand that you're going, Sherry, you've given us this argument before, and I know I've given you this argument before, because I don't understand the logic behind this, that when every single document that I give you in writing shows that you have something to hang your hat on, why you guys are refusing to do that. I know last year when I was here, we talked about the fact that one of the negative inferences happened to be was that memberships are charged for the exercise portion of the facility. According to the assessor's manual, I'd like to read to you the fact that services have to be paid for does not in and of itself just kick it out of being exempt, which is what I think that the board had a tendency to hang their hat on. And we're not sure about what to do with these memberships. We're not sure if it's open to everyone in the community because you got to pay a little bit of money. Therefore, we're denying your request. It says, a large part of the activities of the association, and this is talking actually about the YWCA, clearly falls within one another of the exempted purposes. Some may argue, in this case, some may argue that teaching of swimming, dancing, etc. is not a reasonable incident to or part of an education. So if we were teaching swimming or dancing, etc. over there, that may not really be part of an education. But you know what the reasoning here said was? But it's not for us to write about our personal views into the law. Such things are generally taught in our schools and have come to be recognized as part of our system of education. Just because we're not teaching biology and sociology and algebra over there doesn't mean that that's not an educational facility. It makes no difference that fees are paid for such services, or that the recipients of such service paid for lodging in this case. For the exemption applies to pay schools or even boarding schools as well as free schools. So in this case, which was YWCA versus Bauman, they found that it was also exempt. Even though there was this declaration of, man, they got to pay a little money, and they're not teaching, the things of traditional sense. The second case I'd like to bring to your attention out of the assessor's manual is, it says, one unusual case is City of St. Louis versus the State Tax Commission, in which the Missouri Supreme Court found that an engineers club is exempt. The Engineers Club of St. Louis was a non-profit corporation which had the stated purpose of, and this is a more limited purpose, promoting the educational and professional improvement of its members, which are engineers only, to advance the field of engineering in its several branches, and to make available the general public technical and scientific information and knowledge. Membership in the club was limited to registered professional engineers or architects. There's no limitation over here on who can join, who could be a member, but this was limited. And the Supreme Court of Missouri still came back and said they're exempt. The membership in the club was regularly scheduled programs on a number of topics. These programs were open to the public the Missouri Supreme Court found that the entire property was exempt because the definition of a charity included educating people. Since the Engineers Club conducted seminars on engineering and other important topics, and since these seminars were open to the public, the court reasoned that the real property owned and used by the club was exempt from taxation. There's case law that says that just because memberships are charged, it doesn't necessarily preclude it from being exempt. Let me give you an example. Let's look at your volunteer fire departments. If you own a house, you have to pay your membership due in order to have your house serviced in case it catches on fire. If you don't, then you got to pay a higher wage. You have a membership there. If you have a house, you have a membership if you want to belong to that. They're considered exempt. Are they for educational purposes? And I'm not here to fight that battle. I'm just here to show that last year, it seemed like I was shot down because of this membership argument. There's lots of precedence that shows, and I'm telling you, you can hang your hat on it, that there's an exemption even if memberships are charged for certain purposes. The other thing that I recall from last year is that there was a concern that if we allow the Knox County Community Center to be considered exempt based upon the three-prong test from the Salvation Army case, that it's going to set a precedence for the community. Tell me what is negative about setting a precedence for the community, that you guys are welcoming such an amazing opportunity for this community to have a facility like this. If you set a precedence and somebody else comes in and says, wow, look what they did here, I think I'll go set up ship at Knox County, because that community opened and welcomed the Knox County Community Center. Why would they do that? In fact, I think you're setting a negative precedent by continually denying this. One, that we have to appeal it twice through you. Actually, this is the third appeal. And this will be the first appeal, maybe the second appeal through the State Tax Commission. Think about the negative precedents that you're setting by denying this appeal is what I would ask you. I'm from a small community. I'm from Novinger. And Novinger has nothing that would remotely compare to the Knox County Community Center. La Plata, they have nothing that would remotely compare to it. Brashear, nothing. Queen City, nothing. All the small communities around here. And I just, as a common sense approach, wonder why the Board of Equalization is fighting an effort by a lot of members of the community that donated their time, donated their money, donated their sweat, and I'm sure there were some tears that were shed over this project and continue to be shed over this project. So I would ask you to look at the law that I have shown you today. Look at the three-prong test. Look at the documents that are in writing so that you can see what is the purpose. It's not just Sherry Darling up here talking. It is the documents that speak for themselves. And I would ask you to prove the exemption for this appeal. Yeah, and Deb makes a really good point. And I think that we've probably been talking to the same person. I don't know if anybody knows how this whole state tax commission works, but let me kind of explain. It's sort of a different creature. There are administrative hearing officers down there. The hearing officer that is assigned to our appeal, her name is Maureen. The nice thing about it is, if you want to call down and talk to another hearing officer, they're more than happy to talk to you. And they're actually very nice. And I spoke with him for some time last week, because when you read the Missouri statute, it talks about the fact that you can only appeal the real property in odd years. You can appeal it in even years if you don't have an appeal already pending with the State Tax Commission, and that but you have to appeal the personal property every year, okay? But what it doesn't say is, okay, so that statute says you can appeal those through the State Tax Commission. What it doesn't say or what either way, it doesn't say whether or not you can appeal them to the Board of Equalization. So if you take a common sense approach to it, is that you would certainly hope that upon us winning the appeal of the State Tax Commission, that the next year Anita would come in and say, they're exempt. But technically Anita is not bound. She doesn't have to do that. She could still come back and say, you know what, I'm going to make them jump through these hoops for the next umpteen years. Now, with the real property, it does have to be appealed every single year. Now, I am hopeful that we will have a hearing date. I'm sorry, personal property, not the real property. I saw the look on your face. The real property, the personal property has to be appealed every single year. Okay, even if there's an appeal already pending. And so, one, that's why we're here. And two, I want you guys to understand that the documents are here. The forefathers, before I ever came along to form the Knox County Community Center, laid a foundation as to what the purpose of this community center was and what it was going to be. And they continue to operate it in that way. I have given you what you need to hang your hat on. And I am hopeful that you guys can be fair and impartial. And you may say, what am I deciding today? You have every right to decide as to whether or not the personal property would be declared exempt. And if you guys decide that the personal property would be declared exempt, then that is also speaking volumes to Anita that says, ooh, wow, maybe I should think about this. Because even though we currently have a decision that is pending through the State Tax Commission, and we are jumping through lots and lots of hoops that is costing the community center money, as well as costing the county money to jump through these hoops, you guys can set or send a message to her today that says, oh, we get it now. We understand. We see the documents. This place should be considered exempt. And then we can deal with that State Tax Commission appeal by reaching a settlement. And the battle is over. I'm not here to battle with you guys. I just want you to see what an amazing opportunity. And I don't understand why everybody's being fought in different directions. Why don't you want to set a precedent? I've explained why memberships aren't a problem. I've showed you the documentation for the three-prong test. And I will ask you to fairly and impartially render an opinion and take this under independent consideration and not just say, you know what the easy thing to do? Let's just let the State Tax Commission deal with it. You guys were elected for a job, and I'm asking you to do that job today.
Yeah, basically, I'm understanding that we are here for personal property only. Right, Sherry?
But yes.
We're here for the personal
Yes.
property only. And I can see where they have come up with that, pursuing that, and I admire that, because that way we're not leaving any questions unanswered. It is recommended to me through my assessor's manual and to the state that when you have a tax exempt property, that you put it on the books, and it's up to them to provide their proof. And she has provided very good information. My own thing is, this board is not interpreters of law. There could be things misconstrued here, and we answer to more than just a membership to a community center. We answer to a whole community. She has a very good argument, and I admire her for her preparation for that. That I stand true to where my guidelines are, what I'm given to deal with and to answer to, because I want to be able to say that even though I'm not an attorney, I feel this position as an elected official, you know, I want to make sure that this is tried and true and movie tests that we get. So that's where I'm leaving it. My other part of it is the personal property list provides information for the fitness center and for the education seminar area. And so that I kind of question, I can see all the education in the fitness center, but I don't see it all in the other portion of the building. So like where you have the kitchen supplies and that's personal, that kind of falls under the personal property as well. So So I am pursuing to go on and go with, let them file with the state so that we get a clear, definitive answer, and no one has to question what we decide.
In response to that, I might add is one, I understand your argument of are the pots and pans considered tax exempt, but there were cooking classes that are provided on a regular basis over there, which is educational, as well as what a great facility to have, a kitchen that allows them to have educational opportunities there and then provide meals for those events. And so, and I know Anita said that the assessor's manual kind of says or suggests it's okay to take a hands-off approach to this and just send it to the state tax commission. And she says, you guys are not lawyers and interpreters of the law, but I'm telling you, you were given that authority as the Board of Equalization. If they required you to be lawyers or interpreters of the law specifically and have the education to do so, then they would have said in the Missouri State statute that all lawyers had to be appointed, or only lawyers could be appointed to the Board of Equalization. And that's not what the law says. The law is calling upon you guys to use your common sense reasoning, to use the arguments that I've given you here today, and use the brain that God has given you, because you can make that determination even if you haven't gone to law school. Do you guys have any questions? Does anybody have anything that they would like to add that perhaps I missed?
You have anything further, Anita? All right, we will, review the evidence, and we will issue our decision in writing. Thank you.
May I respectfully request, I thought last year, and I'm trying to recall, that you guys gave your opinion today, and I was able to make a determination how each party voted.
We had to come back. We came back a second time.
We'll issue our decision
Oh, that's
in
right,
writing.
you did. You came back and you gave a decision.
We have another case to hear at this time.
Okay.
So actually,
Okay.
we will issue our decision. in
Thank you, I
writing.
appreciate your time.
From the community center standpoint, we appreciate your cooperation, listening to our argument. Good luck with the rest of your decisions.
Thank you.
Next up, Knox County Council on Aging. Thank you. Thanks. Right here.
I just came to request that the Knox County Council on Aging be completely tax exempt. At one point in time, they were renting apartments in the upstairs of the building, which they were profiting from. That is no longer the case. Those apartments have been closed and cleaned out and will never, as far as our board is considered, be rented again. And so basically our building is being used specifically for nonprofit, for the nutrition side. And that's my argument.
Do you have anything?
It has been, the nutrition site part, the first floor has been tax exempt for a number of years, ever since it went into existence. The upstairs was put on tax because it was drawing an income outside of the realm of the purpose of this. Also, I believe, can you answer me, you are funded through federal
We
and
get federal
state?
and state funds, yes.
So and then when you have people come in to get meals, do you charge a fee, or is
We
there?
ask for contributions for those who are elderly and disabled.
So,
For those under 60, we do ask for a certain amount.
Beth had called me and I suggested that she go through this step of becoming exempt because we are in odd number or even numbered year, and I cannot do a class change without the Board of Equalization's approval. One thing I would like to ask, if I could do a walkthrough review
Absolutely.
to see what our condition of our apartment is, because this board may have decided that they're never gonna rent it, but I wanna make sure that it's not fit to be used, you
Truly
know.
isn't, yeah. Particularly the back apartment is not fit to be used at all.
That's, very seldom do we get the opportunity to do a walkthrough and go inside unless we are invited. So that's why I'm publicly asking for that opportunity to make sure that if you are going to grant an exemption, that this is not something that's gonna come back to us and then they're gonna rent it and then.
One of the basic reasons why we are not going to rent it is because we have determined that there is lead paint in that upstairs of both of the apartments. And we feel that it would not be it would be a safety issue to rent that apartment again. We can't afford to have all the lead paint removed and fix the apartment so it would be rentable. And that was one of the basic reasons why we decided not to rent again.
If you allow me to do the walkthrough and.
You are definitely welcome. Yes.
Okay.
And you stated at this time that the nutrition side as is.
The nutrition side, the first floor has been tax exempt, the second floor was not.
And only because it was being rented out.
It was being rented, used as commercially being used.
At one time, we actually had 2 apartments that they rented. Most recently, it was down to 1 because the back apartment is basically unfit for anybody. The front apartment, like I said, has the lead paint, and we, for safety, don't want anyone in there.
And as a board, you guys are able to do this walkthrough with me. I mean, that's within the means of the Board of Equalization. If you want to go
Yes.
determine your opinions, you can walk through this as well.
Is there any way we can do a walkthrough now?
Absolutely.
Would you all be
Yeah, that'd be
opposed to
fine.
that?
That'd be-
And that way we can.
Sure. That'll be
deal with
fun.
that. That's it?
We'll do that.
All right, we will recess to the nutrition side for a walkthrough.
You're blocked in. I got you blocked in. I'm Echo Mendez. I'm going to shut the live stream down for now, and we'll come back up when they reconvene after their walkthrough.
Here's my,